What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Black Series custom. Today we're going to be trying to upgrade the Season 1 Mandalorian by adding his parts to the new Glavis Ringworld Mando body. I had a box of figures going to storage or to sell. I was trying to decide where everything was going. And the Season 1 Mando, I kind of have hated it since I first got it. So I thought it might be kind of a cool thing to try to put the old parts on this newer body and see how that turns out. So I didn't really have a plan going into this. I just kind of wanted to see what would fit and where. So I heated up both bodies and just removed them as far as I could. The Season 1 Mando is on an older body, of course, and so they used to use this hard plastic on the hips and torso area and chest. And so to get this apart, it's a real pain. You usually have to break one or the other. So I decided to break the hips, of course, and try to pull that torso apart. So I drilled holes and got it apart, and this is what I had after I got everything torn down. These are all the parts I wasn't going to use. This chest piece, though, it kind of comes apart in two pieces, so you can have that cape tucked underneath, so it looks pretty natural. The only thing is the cape is glued down, so I kind of tore up the end of this cape a little bit trying to get it apart. So be careful with that. But the gauntlets I thought would be an easy swap, and they kind of were. The newer body, though, the peg is bigger. And so I did have to drill away a little bit of material from the old gauntlets to get them to pop on. But you can see this torso after I broke apart the hips, it came apart pretty easily. I'm just gonna have to Dremel away all the material on the inside to get it to fit together. I was able to pop on the gauntlets pretty easily. I just used some drill bits to get the hole a little bit bigger until I could pop it on with some heat. And the hands, I'm using the newer Mando hands. They fit into the gauntlets pretty well, and I think they look better overall. These shoulder pad pieces, I did Dremel away as much material as I could to try to get them to lay flush to the body, and I did poke a few holes in them while I was Dremeling. I got a little bit too close and popped through, but I added some silver paint onto the holes I made just to make it look like they were weathered, and they blended in pretty easily. To get the shoulder pads on and to function like the new body's shoulder pads work, I did cut away all of the material. So like I just cut away the kind of hoop part and cut away as far as I could and Dremeled that down just so I could take the old shoulder pads and glue these on the inside of them. That way they could rotate just like the new ones do and get out of the way of movement. So for the thigh pads, they are attached to the thighs of the old body. So what I end up doing is just removing the thighs from the leg, and then I just drilled a hole all the way through with the biggest drill bit I had. And then I just used my snippers to kind of cut away as much material as possible so I could get them on there pretty flush. After that, I just had to glue them onto the thighs to cover up the peg holes from the new ones. And once I got them on, they looked pretty well. There is a little bit of like sand marks on the edges, but from front on and from a distance, you can't tell. But you can see I did Dremel away as much material as I could, and this time I didn't poke any holes. So luckily I didn't have to do any painting for that. So to the most Dremeling I did here was on the actual torso. It would have been easier to use one of the other Mando bodies, just still an overlay from one of those, but I really didn't want to use any other fodder, just these two figures, and see what I could get away with. So I did just drill holes through the arms and through the neck to the bottom. Slowly I used bigger Dremel bits until I was able to just remove as much material as I possibly could in there. And at this point it hadn't split apart yet, so it was kind of difficult to get in there, but later on it does split apart on its own, and I was able to get even more material removed. So the belt kind of holster area, I was just going to leave it how it is, but I decided to go back and repaint that later on. So you can see I removed as little material as I could from the body just to get that kind of overlay piece to fit on as tight as possible. And it really didn't take that much. I just kept Dremeling until I got something to fit pretty well. And you can see that the overlay piece did end up splitting in half eventually. It split pretty clean though, so it didn't really show any seam lines when I glued it back together. But the cape, I wanted it to tuck in underneath the armor like it does in the show and like it does on the new figure. So I took an X-Acto knife and tried to cut away a little bit where I wanted the cape to slot into, and I used that file to just get it as clean of a cut as possible, where the armor meets the cloth sculpt. And that way when I glue it back together, I can stuff that cape down in there and have it look pretty natural, like it's laying underneath the armor. Everything fit together pretty well, and even without glue, it was holding together a little bit. Painted this front kind of padding area with this kind of lighter brown mixed with white, and then I painted the side pad areas with blue mixed with white mixed with black. I just kind of made a light gray and then kept mixing in the blue until it looked pretty close to the other figure. Luckily I had the other belt laying around, so I could just try to color match based on that. And then I tried to match the Hot Toys as much as possible. I feel like I got it kind of close, but maybe not perfect there. But after I got everything glued back together and heated back up and put it back together, this is what I ended up with. And now I gotta say I'm really happy with this. It does look a lot better than the original one did. I'm kind of anxious to see if Black Series announces one pretty soon, which I figure they would since they have all the parts already available. But for now, this is perfectly fine on my shelf, and I'm glad to get rid of that old Season 1 Mando. And this new helmet that they came out with ties it all together perfectly. Thanks for watching. I know this is a bit of a shorter one, but it's pretty quick custom. I think I got this done in like 1 or 2 days, so I was pretty excited to get this guy upgraded and put back on the shelf pretty quickly. So let me know if you think Hasbro will make a new version pretty soon. I could totally see me finishing this and them announcing one. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.